but any of these other bills that we get that pertain to the last fiscal year.
They'll be included in that, so from a cash flow perspective, they come out of this current cash flows, but from the expenditures, we're still in the June 30, 2019 fiscal year.
Okay, okay. So when it comes to, the staff salaries, were these folks deferred, like, right?
That's already been deferred action.
Okay, so how does that work? Do they get like a big paycheck like the end of June?
They can do it, teachers can do it one of two ways.
Okay.
They can get a lump sum in June, or they can get their pay at the spaced out the 4 pays that they do in the summer.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's paid out over the summer, but the expense is
Still goes back, correct? Still goes back.
That used to be after service.
Like these other bills.
Correct.
Like these other bills. So in a way, the fiscal year hasn't been closed out like you were alluding to because we haven't
didn't file
gotten
bills.
all the payments and we haven't gotten all the bills. So it probably won't be 100% known closed out till the end of the summer.
Hopefully by the end of August, mid-September, we'll get all the final bills in.
Oh, even into September?
Some schools are very lax in getting us billings. The IU should be more on point, because I know they're working on reconciliation now, or I don't know how quickly, they finish their reconciliation.
I see.
I've been having discussions with the IU, so I know it should be forthcoming hopefully within the next 30 days.
Sure.
But they have to do all their reconciliations and all their reconciliation of services and such.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one.
Right. Yeah, I was just asking because I was gonna ask you,
What?
like,
City
send these
over
numbers,
there.
based on the one,
It's not like city.
300.
It's city.
And,
It's not
yeah,
city.
but once again, those will be estimates, okay?
That's everything as of today, like for whenever I would run the report. Obviously, we still have some smaller bills coming in, but the biggest one I'm waiting on is the IU.
Okay.
That's the biggest one I can anticipate.
Will they have a public comment before the meeting starts, or is this, who's running?
We have an open discussion at the end.
Okay, but who's running the meeting? Who's the chair of the finance committee?
Still Andy as far as I know.
Andy? Excellent.
So anyways, you can get me those numbers, they just won't be 100% final.
You're gonna get a report tonight as of today.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with the standard item that we have on the finance agenda, which is George's transportation bill for the daily bill runs. The amount for June was $62,501.10.
Yeah, we did, I have it here too, but, The thing I guess I have a question for Dave, Brad. Did you look at the George's bill, Dave? Dave?
David.
Did you look at George's bill? Did you happen to look at George's transportation bill online that was sent with the?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I was just curious if there's some way, if we're going to trust and verify, I would like to know how to verify that that's correct. I don't know. Joy, any ideas?
I can tell you that George's is supposed to be rolling out a transportation routing software.
Okay.
Once they roll that out, we should be able to get more reporting. I don't know to what extent they're rolling it out.
Yeah.
Some of those systems have GPS trackers in the buses and such, which
Yeah.
will automatically pull the data of how many miles traveled and such.
Yeah.
At this point, they don't have it in place.
So it's just a trust, he says he did so many rounds on so many days for so many miles and,
Correct. And we
Absolutely,
know how many
absolutely.
school days there were.
yeah, based on school days.
So, sorry, you didn't ask that question. So the question you're asking is, how do you verify a transportation bill? Not whether I looked at the one we currently have.
Well, yeah, but if you didn't look at it, I was gonna ask you how you verified it, but if you didn't look at it, that was a moot point.
It's not moot. The method to which you will verify transportation bills is defined by the Auditor General. And it's the same method they would use to find out whether or not you are corrupting the system and spending money.
Okay, so
that's not
what is
needed.
it? What is that?
It's in the Auditor General reports when they give an audit. And their method, hang on,
Go ahead.
it's in detail, but the big picture method is that the district knows the students that need to be moved from location to location. And the district knows which students are going and to where, so they should know the mileage. We contract with our subcontractor, the transportation department, right? So they're in charge of tires and maintenance and things on their buses. As a board of director, you're responsible to make sure that those things meet the safety requirements, that the drills are taking place, and that they are done. So what we should be doing, which we're not doing, is overseeing that subcontract. Because it's not the administration's job to do that, it's ours. We can assign people to do it, but it's our responsibility.
Well, do we know the bus routes?
Yes,
Do
we know
the
every route.
buses and we know the bus routes?
The administration would have
Right.
helped, worked with them, worked
To
with
do it.
George's to do it, to
And
establish.
the administration knows if their clearances are obtained or not, correct?
No,
So,
the district does, not the administrators, the board. The board knows the routes, the board assigns the routes. The board's buying the transportation services, and they're buying them from individuals that we have to verify whether or not they meet or don't meet the standard.
Okay, so how are you going to do that?
I just told you how to do it, Rita. You're gonna be a board member, you're gonna be a director for a change, you're gonna honor your oath, baby. Come on, let's do it.
so
Let's do your job.
Can I just interrupt and derogatory comments like.
It's not derogatory to tell her to do her
It
job.
is.
It's
That's
not derogatory.
unprofessional.
She has a job, she's on this board for 2 years, she knows what to
And
do.
to me as a woman, it feels threatening.
As a
So
woman?
please refrain from referring to women in the way that you refer to them.
How? It's not derogatory, she has a job to do. She's supposed to do this
It feels
job.
threatening as a woman to hear that word.
What?
So please refrain
A job to
from
do?
using that comment when you're referring to women.
What comment are you referring to?
You know exactly what
No,
you're
I have no
talking
idea
about.
what you're talking
I'm
about.
not going to repeat it.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You can review your tape then.
I will. What are you talking about? Joy, did you check anything that you think is condescending to women as a woman? She has a job to do. You have to do the job. You have to honor your oath.
Call me. What did you call me?
You have to honor your oath.
What did you call me? Then you'll know the answer.
A rubber stamper?
No, that's not the word you use.
Blind trust?
You use.
That's
What-
not the word you use.
I'm sorry. What word do you believe that I
You can
use?
rewatch it on your tape
I will,
unless
no
you'd
problem.
like to black it out when you rewatch it.
That's fine. I can do that. But you do have a job to do. You're not doing it. And until you do it,
Can we continue?
no, it's not my opinion. It's the opinion of the Auditor General, ma'am.
This is gonna go with, we'll move on.
Okay. So the next item, I want to review the new board reports that will be in.
Can we go back, because I was about to say a
sorry.
thing before that broke out. So we know the bus routes, right, and we know the buses. So theoretically, someone within the district, one of our administrators could just go on Google, right, and calculate all the mileage, and then we would know, right? I mean, well, if this bill is based on miles, right, then theoretically it would be the same, right, like on a per day basis, because the buses are running the same route.
I was not here when these routes were developed. So Tina, I don't know what the former administrator might have been done, or if there was another administrator that was handling the routing when it was initially established. Do you know that?
I was saying that I think someone should get the routes and just, calculate the mileage so that we can kind of audit the bill.
Well, what I do know is we are not billed at 5 miles.
Oh, we're not?
I did.
We're billed by day, we're billed a rate per run,
Okay.
per day.
Oh, okay.
They give us a rate.
So the number of days that the buses ran is all you really need to know.
Well, that's not
sounds.
Well, then that sounds super easy to audit then.
That's the 13 regulated ones, and then the other ones that aren't.
So then, so then the two of you have kind of audited it already, you looked at it and the correct number of days.
Yeah,
is
if
there.
we had, 10 days of school, that's what we expect to be billed. So that's why our June bill is
Less than it has been, yeah.
Dave.
In addition to those regular routes to bring children to and from school, Georgia's Transportation charges this district for individuals moving from location to location, which is also a separate bill and needs to be verified. Because every time you have someone that goes from here to, say, Jim Thorpe, or to another district for training, that would be an additional charge for that individual educational program by that student. And therefore, that would be specific. And those bills are also provided by our last business administrator. So I was able to look at and verify every student's transportation charges. Have you not done those, Mr. Yenser or Ms. Spinell?
I know Joy and Gail, have you?
No,
I don't think they were given the opportunity or the privilege of being able to do that. I think that the 5 on this board
I know.
that do this blind trust did not allow the other 4, let me finish,
No,
the other
until you
4.
get new material, you are.
No, it's repeating. The
This is-
5 on
this
this
is the
board
same
that
thing.
blocked transparency prevented the other 4
Yeah.
from access
Great
to the
story.
information.
Yes,
Great
yes,
story.
yes.
That's true.
Great story.
100% true,
Great
sir.
story.
Yeah.
And the fact that you,
Let's move
Wow,
on
go ahead.
to the productive
Yeah,
meeting.
he has no new material, he never will.
there you go. Let's fix the ones we have.
So in your board packets going forward, you're going to see all the reports that you're currently getting. We're also going to provide additional reporting. You'll see one, and Megan's going to pass it out, that's going to detail revenues. Now, these revenues are the fiscal year ending June 30, 2019, as of today. Again, there are some revenues that might come in that relate to this year that will change these numbers. And when I get to expenditures, we're still waiting for some large invoices for that, so that will be updated as well.
So when you say as of today, you mean things that happened after June 30th but got accrued the previous year?
Based upon county rules, have to be approved back. So you'll see in the last column where it says balance, you'll see that that's the easiest way to track where we're at from a budgetary basis. So like if you go down halfway to the page, 6411 delinquent real estate tax, it was budgeted at 1.5 million. We collected about 831,000. So we're under budget $718,000. So that last column is going to be the easiest column to kind of track where we're going throughout the year. I think it's an easier format. And it comes right out of our system. Any questions on the format of the report? The second report that you will receive is an expenditures by object report. What this does is shows the expenditures in the PDE grouping of 100 for salaries, 200 for all personnel-related benefits, 300 for purchase services, 400 for purchase property services, 500 for other purchase services, which is going to be charter school costs, transportation, things like that. 600 for supplies, that's going to be textbooks and janitorial, all supplies. 700 is going to be property. 800 and 900 are going to be other objects, legal fees, debt service, things like that. So that's on this one. And again, that last column is where you can see throughout the months how we're trending to budget. And again, this is fiscal year end June 30, 2019, and everything that we received as of today. We still are waiting for a bill from our IU for the special education services, but outside of that, that's the largest bill I expect to receive. That'll go back to this year.
And approximately, do you have an idea?
It's probably going to be about $270,000. The other additional report I'm gonna show you, I just wanna bring to your attention when you're looking at the check register, there's an account code structure that you could look at that account code structure and it'll make it easier for you to question things. Why something might not be reported to an expense account. On that sample fund accounting check register, you'll see the account code. Anytime you see an account code that's 10-0100 or 10-0999, anything within that range, that means it's going to a non-revenue or non-expense account. There's sometimes reasons for that, like if you're taking a deposit or paying a deposit on a team going to a competition, you'll report it as a prepaid asset and then release it to expense when the event occurs. So you will see that periodically, but I think it would make it easier to find some things that maybe were not put in expenditure in a timely fashion that should have been. So that's just a little tip when you're looking at, these reports can be a little much to look at all the numbers. That's just a little tip I think can direct attention to certain things that you may want to individually question. And again, you'll still continue to get the board reporting that you currently get. These will just be additional reports that break down the same exact numbers, just into a different format.
Okay.
So we have something going to say Giant Food Store, Oriental Trading. Is it, is it stored in your system somewhere? Who approved the expense or who made the
On the
expense?
invoice, yes. For items that are purchased via purchase order, a lot of the supplies and things, at least with going up to bid, you're going to issue purchase orders for. And then the purchase order has an approval process. And then the invoice, when the invoice comes in, is matched to that purchase order. For other items like Giant, if they're going to get things for the food program that, for the classes that are held, it used to be called home economics, I think we call it something different now. They will go to Giant and they will purchase the goods on account that we have with Giant, and then it's coded. The invoice will come in and it'll be coded to the individual buildings that utilize those.
Okay, so it'd be pretty easy to mine additional information.
Correct.
That's not shown here.
Yep.
More
Mr.
important,
Bradley.
thank you. More importantly than where does it go when someone goes to Oriental Trading or Giant or the hardware store or Lowe's, is who authorized the expenditure and what's the process of that authorization, and where is the board's responsibility in approving that authorization? Thank you.
Are you asking a question, or do you have the answer prepared that you would like to hear?
I find that offensive. I asked a question. I'm looking for an answer. I have an answer. I know what currently
As I just
happens.
discussed with Joy,
But
the
did-
items are approved when they are ordered or when they are picked up, and that's the approval process.
By
There would
whom?
be an administrator from within the district that would have approved the purchase.
Which one?
It would vary depending on the department,
Great. So when they go to Giant, who approves it?
the building principal.
The building principal. Okay, when they go to Oriental Trading and order something online,
It would depend on who ordered it.
and there's a hierarchy. Is that hierarchy shared with the board?
If it's asked for, it is.
Okay. Someone on this committee want to ask for that information so they have it?
Is there anything else that Mr. Fike is asking you to ask the group? Because I would be happy to answer anything else that he is questioning
He did not-
on his books and records.
Very condescending. He did not ask that question. I asked the
I was
question
just
because I looked at all the bills in the past and I recognized that when they were acquired, I saw things that were very disturbing to me as a business person, and I think this board should fix. But that's between the board that oversees the administration.
He's not on, you're a citizen at the moment, not on the board, I guess.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Of
And
course.
so you were a citizen when you saw it in Mr. Fike's office and decided not to share those questionable things with the rest of us, correct?
Absolutely not. I did share them. You guys ignored me. But thank
I
you.
don't ever remember any particular thing being brought here to us, Dave, ever.
Your call. Thank you. As Mr. Cleve would say, that's your opinion. But it's nice that you're asking questions now. I love it. I appreciate it. Continue with
Okay, we're
the
gonna move on.
reform.
So the last item on the agenda is the LRTA. So in the past, just to bring everybody up to speed, on June 25th, 2018, the board authorized the business office to develop a LRTA resolution. On August 27th, 2018, they authorized the business office to hold a public hearing to set the LRTA boundaries. There's been no formal resolution developed yet, and the LRTA boundaries do need to be established in a public hearing. The Carbon County Economic Development Board, officials from Weissport, they would all be involved in that meeting. So we're looking to get that meeting scheduled. They are proposing to, my understanding is that the district has already been informed that the designated area will be in the Weissport area.
Yes.
What the Weissport officials and Carbon County officials have discussed is on the assessed value improvement that would happen within that zone, there would be potentially a 2-year grace period. So if the property assessed value went up by $50,000, that $50,000 would not be taxed for the first 2 years. In years 3, 4, and 5, 50% would be taxed. In year 6, 60%. Year 7, 70%. Year 8, 80%. Year 9, 90%. And year 10, 100%. Under the LRTA agreement, there would have to be the creation of no less than 5 full-time or 15 part-time jobs. So that's the sample resolution that I found, in the records. But we would obviously have to streamline it based upon setting the boundaries at that public hearing, and then deciding on whether we're comfortable with what the Carbon County and Weissport have discussed as far as the tax, the portion that would be taxed. So we will be looking to schedule that meeting, hopefully late summer, early fall. Ideally, I think the best area is probably one of our buildings. That way most of the public that wants to attend can attend. And again, the goal of the LRTA is to help depressed areas, to bring new businesses in, bring new jobs in. And I know there's some significant plans for the Weissport area to bring in some new business. And just one other item of note, very late this evening, we received our notice that we are due for our state audit, which I think is a very good thing. They haven't been out for at least 5 years. So they will be looking at audits, they will be looking at a bunch of safe schools items, things like that. So more to come on that when they will be out, but I expect to see them probably sometime in July.
Okay, good.
That's it. Mr. Bradley.
I have a bunch of things to go over for into that section of this meeting, is that correct?
Yes, we were in open discussion.
Okay, awesome. So the board approved the forensic audit. I'd like this finance committee to request from the state auditors general a auditor to pick that meets the requirements for a forensic audit and meets the requirements for fraud analysis. And that auditor can be recommended by the state auditor general now, because they have rules about that, at which point we don't have to do the full bid process, because we'd be basically buying off that, like a GSA agreement for doing governmental audits. And they would meet the criteria, because the auditor general would be specifying them. Can we remove the risk of corruption by allowing the state auditor general to recommend a forensic auditor?
We would be more than happy to put a resolution to rescind the former motion.
You don't have to rescind it. We were going out for bid.
There was a motion on the prior board agenda
Right?
to approve that, so we could put a motion on to rescind that and put your new motion on.
You don't have to rescind it. You just, they're looking for.
Mr. Bradley, we don't want the administration to be accused of not doing their job.
Correct.
That a resolution was approved and they didn't follow through.
Correct. So I'm asking this finance committee. I'm asking this finance committee to ask the auditor general for their recommendation, bring it to the board meeting, and then exercise that opportunity, which removes any corruption from the system. and it's very easy to do. The board has authority over this, and I'm asking for this committee to do that. Will this committee of currently 2 do that? Ask the Auditor General for a recommended forensic auditor with the ability to review fraud.
Why do you think there's only 2? Rusty's just not here tonight, he's still on the committee.
I know he's not on the committee. I know he's not here. He called and mentioned he was going to be late. I wanted all 3 to be here so I could
He's
ask.
not gonna be
But
late.
there's only
He's
2.
not coming. He's
I know
not
that.
coming.
I understand. But there's only 2 of you now. So
Okay, but he's still on the committee.
I understand that. So motion and second, I guess? Or I don't know how you want to do it. Whatever you want to do.
Official action's not taken at this meeting, so
It's
there's no
it's
vote.
a it's a straw vote.
Here.
Okay, so will one of you 2 make the recommendation to the board to use or ask the state auditor general for an approved forensic auditor with the ability to investigate fraud?
So Dave,
I would like to make a statement. Mr. Bradley, shortly after coming here, I myself reached out to the Auditor General and had intense conversations about things I had noted. You keep talking about corruption.
Sure.
As a licensed CPA within the state of Pennsylvania, I would not intend to go out to RFP for a forensic audit and not make sure I didn't pick the best auditor for this district. So for you to keep referring to corruption, when we were moving forward with exactly with what you wanted initially was an RFP, that I take, I challenge, because you.
So are you picking the forensic auditor? The way you
We
just
haven't
described
even
it.
gotten to that point yet.
We're trying to put an RFP together.
Well, the point
The
is,
RFP is a request for proposal.
correct.
That doesn't mean you need to act upon that request for proposal.
Okay.
It's asking people to come in
And
and
give
send
us
a
a bid.
request for a bid on that service.
Correct.
We can select that. We can run parallel with that. And I don't particularly think it's a bad idea to ask the state auditor when they come in for an opinion.
Not when they come in.
And that can
Literally
run,
come right when they're-
and that can run parallel with going out for an RFP of what we were looking to do previously.
But the reality is you can ask them now, they'll authorize a list of people you can pick from that are already on the GSA account, and you can just choose one
Well,
that
I
meets the
tend not to
criteria
wanna go against
without the.
Motions that a board has approved as not.
So
I don't feel comfortable.
we can put a resolution on the next agenda that will rescind that former motion and have a vote on the new motion of going directly to the Auditor General.
Well, it's
Quite
not going
frankly,
directly to the
we're all
Auditor
going-
General. You're asking the Auditor
Mr.
General.
Bradley, please let me finish.
Sure.
Quite frankly, getting a list from the Auditor General or going out to RFP, they're all gonna be qualified firms that we would have the ability to evaluate. So either one, as a CPA, I would feel comfortable with either choosing one off the Auditor General list or going through the RFP process. But again, we would have to rescind that first board agenda and put the new motion on.
Actually, I don't believe you do, and I don't think that the administration should be the one helping to evaluate which auditor we're going to use for a forensic audit of the administration and the district. And this is all cleaned up easily by the state process, which allows a government entity to go to the state and ask for, and you can just send them an email and they'll respond right away, before even our next board meeting, with a qualified, state-approved forensic auditor with the ability to search for fraud. That's my statement. That's what I learned, and that's what I'm suggesting.
Go ahead, you have something else?
I got lots. Yeah. So the next one was, what methods or techniques are used by this government officials that were elected to oversee this administration to verify the data provided by the administration? What method do we as a board, or does this finance committee use to verify the information coming from our administration?
I don't know, what did you do this past year? How to
Okay.
verify it?
I verified a lot. So is there one or is there not?
You tell me.
Okay. Andy,
Keep going, ask your questions.
you don't have an answer to that? Okay. So what is the consequences for a subordinate like the administration, that repeatedly lied or provided false information to a board member or the board as a whole? Are there consequences to an administrator that would have either lied or provided false information to a board? And if so, what consequences are there?
It seems to me that first, the person would have to have been proved to be lying. We don't know any of that, and so I would have no way to answer that because none of the process has even started. You have a lot of innuendo, but none of it has been proven or researched or anything. So if and when someone is accused of that, we will research as to how to handle it. That would be my answer.
Andy, do you have an answer?
No. Keep going, Dave.
So, the method and techniques that you guys are lacking, I have employed. And
Just because we didn't answer, Dave, doesn't mean we're lacking.
okay, so
Go ahead.
why don't, then answer for me, Andy.
No,
Dave,
if we don't answer,
continue
you
on.
to twist it around. Just
Continue
keep
on
going.
with
Andy, you failed.
questions.
You failed. You failed your oath.
Oh, Dave.
You failed as a treasurer. You have a job to do, and you
You
failed
have a
to do
job
it.
to do also, Dave.
And I'm
You
doing it.
absolutely failed the district.
And I'm doing it on a regular basis. But now the question is, how do we actually effectively hold our administration accountable to the board that's responsible? The board is responsible for the budget. The board. The board is responsible to make sure that the information we send to the state of Pennsylvania is accurate. Now, if the state of Pennsylvania has information that differs from what the board received from the administration, one of them is in conflict. And if they are in conflict, one of them has to be the truth and one of them has to be a lie.
What year are you talking
Not
about, Mr.
necessarily.
Bradley?
What are you talking about?
I'm glad you have some interest finally. That's just wonderful. So the first question is, who provides the enrollment numbers and enrollment projections to the Department of Education?
Enrollment numbers are a snapshot. They change throughout the year. It's a snapshot date, which I believe is in October. I'm not
Yes,
positive.
we went through this before, Dave.
You did?
Several times.
Okay.
With you, yeah.
Excellent. So when you saw the enrollment numbers in the feasibility study, first of all, the question is, Steve, do you remember if you used method 1 or 2 of the feasibility study? Did you ever read it yet?
I'm just listening, I'm not talking to you.
I'm asking you a question. If you don't want to answer, that's
That's
up to
my
you.
answer, I'm not talking to you.
No problem. Testimony agreed. Mr. Genscher, do you remember if you used method 1 or 2? Or 3?
Continue on, Dave.
Do you remember or not?
Continue on, badgering.
I'm not badgering. I'm asking a very simple,
on, Pat.
educated question. The projections in the feasibility study were of escalating values for every year going forward. Would you agree or not?
Dave, continue on.
You have a job to do,
There's
sir.
people here who have lives to contend to, Dave.
And
Continue on.
you're consuming their finances by mismanaging this district, Mr. Yenser.
Your opinion, Dave.
Thank you. So now the facts that I formed that opinion would be that the Department of Education shows our district in a steady declining trend of actual enrollment. Is that accurate?
I do not know. I have not looked at the enrollment data that you are looking at, Mr. Bradley.
We provided it to them.
Somebody in administration did. I do not do child accounting reporting.
No problem.
Dave, can I
The
see?
projection. Is that?
Can I see the enrollment?
Yeah, sure. And not only is it projected, not has it been going down, but it's projected to go down through 2029. Through the state of Pennsylvania. So if we're not budgeting accurately, which we're not doing, for the actual students we have and the projections, you're harming your community. So the first question is this board doing its job and who holds them accountable? And we found that apparently you guys do not. I'm trying to help you do that. Once you verify the information against the documents, right, that have a penalty for false information. So you verify the document against a bond document. You verify it against something that goes into the state. When you verify the information of this administration to those documents, you would then get to make the choice whether you believe the administration or do you believe the state documents.
Quite frankly, Dave, on some things, I would have to believe the administration.
Why is
Because
that?
I have had many instances with the state where they were wrong. So I'm just telling you that.
Okay.
Okay.
But your job is to verify it. So when you see a discrepancy, which one do you pick or how do you verify it?
If I see the actual numbers that come into this district for enrollment, and then I go look on the PDE website where they have it, it might be off, but as we said, it's date, it's.
So this finance committee has a budget that is upwards of the $44 million number, correct?
Different cohort number.
Correct? And we created it.
I am not answering you because
Why?
you will find a way to turn this against me. I'm not gonna do it. Talk to yourself.
Thank you, I will. So Rita, did you actually look at the budget that showed a tax decrease based on our enrollment that meets the standards of our district entitlement program called Free and Public Education?
I am not answering you.
Did you even consider a budget that would be morally
I'm not
correct?
answering you anymore.
Do you have a moral standard to how you create a budget, Rita? How about you, Andy? Do you have any moral standard to which you use to create a budget?
Continue on, Dave.
Do you have one or
You're
I'm not gonna be your puppet in front of your camera.
not? So when would you like to answer the people? They want to know whether or not you have a moral standard. You just asked them for more money, a tax increase. You told them that their budget is moving from near $40 million to near $44 million. That's a 10% increase. What educational benefits are we buying with that $44 million to give to these kids in that budget? Do you know?
Great story, Dave.
Can I answer?
No, he has to answer. He's the board member. Great story. What do you mean? It's the truth, Andy. You passed a budget with a tax increase that's near 10% higher than it was last year, and you identified no additional educational benefits of that extra millions of dollars that you're consuming. And yet you had a budget in your hand that had a tax decrease with educational benefit increases
With numbers that were false.
provided by information of the state,
That were
which
not
have to be verified and accurate.
That were not accurate.
How are they not
Did you
accurate?
verify those numbers?
Yes,
for
I
our
did, with the
business
state.
office? For our business office.
Absolutely not.
Perfect, thank you.
Did you want me to verify them with the business office or be the board that assigns a budget to the business office? Would I ever give the fox the keys to my hen house? Absolutely not, Mr. Yenter. I don't understand why you do.
You have such a twisted concept of how this works, David, that I don't even want to hear about you anymore. I just don't even want to listen.
And you're thinking it's a twisted concept of how it works?
Dave, continue on if you have any more.
Please stop the willful neglect of duty.
Yeah, we are all
Stop
derelict
being
of duty,
paid.
immoral. Yeah, I admit it, David. Put me on camera, put me on Facebook. Yep, I'm a total idiot.
Please stop being in willful neglect of your duty, being played as a pawn, or taking immoral actions, and open your eyes to the facts on the published documents by this administration that we as a board authorize that are factual because they come with a penalty for falsification. These are the bond documents, this is the feasibility study, this is the state documents that are turned in by our staff. Why are you not verifying the documents prior to their authorization, including a budget? Why?
Continue on, Dave.
When the public officials abdicate their authority, trust without verification, and neglect their responsibilities as defined in the Pennsylvania School Code, they are worse than a director that fails to attend a meeting. In my opinion, when a director claims immunity to the duties of a director, they are effectively admitting grounds for removal under Section 318 of the Pennsylvania School Code. I am formally asking Andy to resign from this board, along with Rita, for their failure to meet the needs of the Pennsylvania School Code and save this district tons of money in legal fees, as same with you, Mr. Holland, who fails to do your duty to verify the information provided by your district administration. It's your job. It's your oath of office. And you're blocking those of us trying to do it on a regular basis. Your willful neglect is in violation of Pennsylvania School Code 318. Please resign. Will you resign, please, sir?
Are you done?
I'm asking a
Is
question.
that it? Is that like after the comments?
Yes, will you resign, sir?
No.
Now,
Rita, will you resign, please?
does anyone else?
You're not doing your job. Will you resign?
Say, Barb, can we hear from you?
Will you resign? Hold on. At least answer. Will you resign?
Dave, walk the public.
That's fine, I will. Will you resign, please, for not doing your duty, Rita? For rubber stamping this administration and not doing your duty. Will you resign, Rita?
Barb, we're sorry. You keep getting spoken over.
I'm gonna smack him upside the head in a minute.
Do not assault.
I know, Rich.
I know. Rita, would you like to respond, or is there no comment? I'm asking for your resignation as a citizen because you neglected to do your duty. You failed to meet the responsibilities of this board when you failed to understand your job as creating a budget, overseeing your district administration, and verifying their data. And the fact that you have such discrepancies within this district is evidence of this lack of responsibility. And you're blocking those of us trying to do that job with your rubber stamping, block voting, 5-4.
Okay. This is my view as an outsider on this, okay? And I'm just looking at the picture as a whole. Information was provided, and there was a budget formed back in, I guess, January. Obviously, information was not forthcoming that was accurate, or we wouldn't have had a $3.8 million shortfall and a tax hike.
Well, you still don't know which one's accurate.
Stop. I don't, it doesn't matter.
I know, it's just that they're different.
I mean, I get that. Stop. Let me finish. So therefore, our budget basically goes up by $4 million in the next year because we have to make up for that $3.8 million shortfall. Because something somewhere was not reported accurately. What I want to see is the entire board questioning things and saying, are we actually getting accurate? You were obviously a little surprised by what happened. I was. I expected a little bit, not 3.8 million. I really did. And we as citizens can't verify that. We don't have the information. We can't ask for that. If I could, I would. And damn it, I would sit there for 10, 12, 14 hours if it took to verify it. It's upsetting to me that we have people in this district that can't afford even a $20 tax hiker. They're gonna have to not buy a certain medication. And I hear this all the time. It's upsetting, and it's imperative, unfortunately, and it may have been a series of small things that came together to build that number. Certainly, healthcare costs was part of it, and that was probably a large part of it, but on that note, has any of the healthcare costs that were eligible to be presented to the stop loss insurance, were they presented
Yes,
before the 30th?
yes.
Thankfully. And
There's a
hopefully
direct
that will
feed.
be a certain number.
That's a direct feed of data, and Barb, that's why I'm giving additional reporting, broken down in different formats, so
But I
it's-
don't see that.
I know.
I only see
Yeah.
3.8 million.
Yeah, well, that's why I've presented these new board reports, because I think it makes it more easy to see exactly where we're at from a budget to budget basis. I can also tell you that while I am here, if there is a purchase that is made that there's not funds budgeted for, I am going to say no. And if there's something on the board agenda that is up for approval that has not been budgeted for, I am also going to say that. That's the
Isn't
information.
that how it's
It was
Isn't
supposed
that how
to
the law reads? If you don't have the budgeted funds, you can't spend it.
Right.
I mean, and I get on benefits, that's a little bit, I mean, because crap happens. But as a citizen, and speaking for some of the elderly that literally cry in front of me while I'm working, that they can't afford this. They don't trust anymore. They don't. There was a front page article, $3.8 million short, and they just don't trust it anymore. And I just don't know what to say. I mean, well, I can't find out. If I did a right to know, would I be able to get that information so I could look at it myself?
Only if the 5 don't block it.
Dave,
Only the 5 don't block
I'm
it.
asking you.
Please with the commentary.
It's
If
5
not
blocking.
useful, please.
It's true, we
It's
asked for
not
it.
gonna
They
have
blocked it.
I'm speaking to Barbara.
But it's
It's
true.
not gonna have any personal identity
You have to tell us
verification.
exactly what you want. Do you want a?
I would like to see what the board sees as far as the budget and,
It's not enough.
because I'm, if I could have sat behind a desk, I would have been a CPA, but I couldn't. So, I do understand how it works. I've done a forensic audit. Yes, it was on a much
We're
smaller
more than
scale.
welcome to see what she's proposing to give us and have those, Barbie.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. More detail is always better.
It should just be an open book. It's the government's money.
And although I agree with you, I don't expect that to happen.
Why not?
Not right away, Dave.
It's easy. It's an open
It's a
book.
process.
Nope, it's an open book.
But can this be made available? I mean, I'm asking because I don't know if it's lawful to make it available.
This information.
That's already part of the board
is all
documents.
Information, there's no.
It's information we always
information
got,
or-
she's just putting it in a different
I'm putting it in a
format to
different
make it easier
But
to
you didn't
understand.
get the information, obviously, or there wouldn't have been such a surprise at $3.8 million shortfall.
If you're given that information, Barb, if you look at that, how are you gonna verify that those numbers are true?
The board was receiving a 50 to 60
We were
page
receiving numbers that were
Okay.
not
So
true.
broken down, like in the finite detail, they're still gonna continue to get that, but then they're gonna get a snapshot of revenue. So 2-page, 3-page snapshot of these are our revenues. Then a snapshot of expenses broken down by what's budgeted for salaries, benefits, services, and such. So you can see it on a 2 to 4-page format, much easier to see things that.
And I understand it's not hundreds of numbers to go through,
Yeah.
but,
And they're still gonna get the full detail that they had been getting, the 70-page.
okay, so what you're saying is they're still gonna get the check register detail?
Yeah, all of that, yeah, none of
All
that
right,
changes. This is just additional.
That's the only
information.
thing basically that we had access to on the website.
These will now be included in the board packets.
Okay, so it'll make it a little easier
I think it
to,
makes it a little easier to, spotlight what might be going on in a certain either category of expenditure or, revenue, performance.
okay, so, because I never saw that, I remember a budget report as to where the district was according to the budget. That was not shared with the public.
That will be on these reports. From a revenue perspective, you can see, and unfortunately, the system does not write out clearly, but it'll have revenue totals, on like page 5.
And expenditure totals
Yeah, you
and,
see the current budget, year-to-date received, and then the expenditures, you'll see total expenditures of the budget and then where it's spent.
okay, so, but if something isn't put from, the balance sheet into an expenditure,
Which is
would it
also-
still be the issue? I'm not saying it's gonna happen
Yeah,
again.
it could still be the issue, that's why I gave the board what I think is a good, little test to do. Make sure
Okay.
that when they're looking at the check register, if something's charged to a balance sheet item, they can question it and there should be, a response as to why. Then they know that there's, everything's being timely recorded. And again, you will sometimes charge it to a balance sheet, but it's kind of rare to do that in a school district.
Okay.
And that would be for mainly like a prepaid registration or something like that.
Because being able to get this information every month and be able to look at it and verify it would make, I don't know how many other people would do it, but I would.
But how are you going to verify? This is what, I mean, I'm getting to some
Well, when you get
redundant here, but what are we gonna do? Are we gonna sit with Patty day after day after day when those bills come in and see if the bills that she's paying or what she's reporting on there? Are we gonna sit with the tax collectors and see if the tax collectors are taking yes, verify, fine, but we've been looking at these reports for years, forever. I looked at them in a work environment. That doesn't guarantee that that's what happened. The person who's doing the accounting is the only one who knows where and how much and how everything's going.
Verification comes by hiring an independent auditor, which you do at the end of every year.
Right,
So
but they only look
and they
at
audit.
balance sheets and,
They do, they come in and look at all the statements. They look at the balance sheet, they look at the income statement. They will come in and look at all the numbers.
But for example, they wouldn't check. like,
They don't check every single transaction.
They would.
well, that would be a forensic audit.
Yeah, correct.
But they wouldn't find out, like, let's say there was an unethical staff member who bought something for their own house and they expended.
Not if it was not unless it happened to be something they picked in their sample size when they were testing an account.
Right, so those sorts of things where, we're maybe losing money and not gaining.
But how would we check, how would we do that?
Well-
How would we do that?
Let me answer that. When you have reports in 5 or 6 different forms, a discrepancy is easier to pick out because it's not going to show up in every report.
But if a purchase order was signed for an iPad, and someone took that iPad home, how will you verify that? I mean, is that what you're saying, Joy? Like somebody bought something for home use, how would you know that?
I can answer that,
If you look at
if you'd like
the
to.
purchase order and then it was received, it was signed for, how do you know if
Well,
somebody
now-
actually got it to use in their classroom, or are they taking it home at
Well,
night?
first
We
of
don't know
all,
that.
before the purchase order even goes out, it would have to be authorized by someone.
Well, it has to be
And
signed
then-
by someone, yeah.
Right, so that's an authorization. When it's signed by someone before it's purchased, it's an authorization.
Right.
So if it then, and I know Patty is doing a much better job of tracking inventory of what we own. If it turned up missing, and come on, one iPad is not a big deal, but 100 would be a big deal.
Well, sure, somebody would notice that, I'm fairly certain, Patty, right? Somebody
Yeah.
would notice that.
Everything we buy should theoretically have an asset number,
Right.
it should be tagged, and someone should be able to find it.
This is how it works, Rita. This is what you're supposed to do.
Dave, stop being so condescending, I'm not
I'm not
talking.
being condescending, I'm telling you what you're supposed to do. That's not condescending, it's educational. You need to
So-
be educated.
Yeah, so I mean.
It's exactly your job.
I remember a year or so ago, Dave pointed out that we had a bill that we all received, it was in our packet, and there were like 350 Wi-Fi devices purchased for the elementary center. And Dave, with his knowledge, pointed out that for the square footage of the building, that sounded like an unusually high number of Wi-Fi devices. And there was a discussion, and there was a talk of doing a walkthrough and counting them, and Dave, I wish you had done that.
I did partly. I was not given full access to confirm all of them, which is our responsibility as a board member. That lack of transparency is what's causing this district to be mismanaged.
Tell us about.
We have, right, so how this works, Rita, is we have the responsibility.
Dave, tell us about your partial walkthrough.
Yeah, so we have-
I wanna hear how that played out.
Well, let me ask 2 questions first. How many taxpayers are within this district? Do we know, Pat? Just the total number?
It's like.
Is there a way, I know, but is there a way to get that?
It's like 17,000. Can you?
No, not taxpayer, I mean physical properties. Do we know how many assessed properties we have? Is there a way to find that out?
Well, assess properties that actually pay taxes.
No, delinquent or not delinquent, I just want to know the number.
No,
of
I'm
assessed-
talking about nonprofits are not taxable for,
I want to know the number of assessed properties within the district.
It's like 9,000.
I want an accurate number to that. Can I please get that?
I swear you have that number.
Can I please get that information? Patty, can I please get that information?
You could submit a right to know request, and I would be happy to provide that information to you.
Thank you. Can I also get the average amount of interest we're paying on all of our bonds?
Mr. Bradley, you were given all of the audit reports for the last 5 years that list the debt service payments.
Did you calculate the amount of our average interest?
I did not. You can do a right to know request for that as well.
I will.
And if it is
Thank you.
readily available, it will be provided to you.
Excellent, no problem. I appreciate that. And I will do that. Now, here's the answer to your walkthrough.
Yes.
Okay, so what happened was, we got a bill for $100 and some $1,000 worth of things that were purchased without a bid. We didn't bid them. We went right off the government contract and we purchased them. We didn't have any,
Do with the audit, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
That's what
you
you
just
suggested we
suggested
do with
we
the
do.
auditor. Just go right off the government sheet.
One more time. We purchase things right off the government sheet, which is perfectly legal, just like asking for a forensic audit. The trust and verify responsibility of the board is to recognize that the cost of those items should be competitive. So the first thing I did was I checked whether or not the GSA amount was equal to or less than the average purchase price of that item under other contracts. So that's how you do your job to verify that, hey, do we take our GSA to avoid the board's approval? Or do we verify that we can just go
I
by?
understand the import of
So
what you
the-
did.
Can I just add one thing that will be,
Then secondly, I verified that when I got the list of documents and on the invoice had their serial number, I then went with Brian for a walk to inspect whether or not this serial number of that item was still within the district's property. Meaning, was it on the school grounds? Because if we purchased it, it should either be on the school grounds or a document showing where it is. For instance, when we bought how much was the tractor, Steve? 50 grand?
$45,000.
$45,000 tractor, right? We should have verified, which I did, the serial number of the tractor matched the invoice. The cost of the tractor, full list price of that tractor by the person that we bought it from. Did we bid it out to other people? No. We made a recommendation. They kind of did their own little thing. It's a waste. It's corruption and waste. So when you go there and you go to a piece of equipment, they have to have on them a document or verification like that one does, yet this one does not. So is this even the district's or whose is this?
Isn't that an asset number, one of those labels there?
No, it says conference room A and do not remove, but there's no asset number listed on this information. Is there asset number listed on this information? We'll find out. Yes, IDA STIM 2009-10 98 1000009 LAST A00 490. So it actually told you what it was, how it was owned, and who owns it, and why. And that's an asset list. I also requested the asset list. I also requested our balance sheet, our P&L. Stacy stood up in the corner of the room and cried that it was going to cost $100,000 for our administration to allow us access to the files that are right on the other side of that wall that every other board of director in the state of Pennsylvania has access to individually. And you guys block.
all due respect, board members.
There is no
in my
respect,
experience,
because she doesn't do it, he doesn't do it, and he doesn't do it. And everyone else in that room that doesn't do this job should be held accountable. And I'll hold them accountable. By making sure that they go on YouTube and see that they don't even know what their job is. And they should do it. And you should allow them to do it. You shouldn't say, Mr. Bradley, as a board member, file a right to know and I'll give you your information. That's disrespectful.
Mr. Bradley.
What you should do is say, that's great information.
Hostile work environment right
Why
now,
is that?
and I suggest that you calm down and stop with the innuendo
There's no
and
innuendo.
attacks.
Okay, I'll
Because
calm
you
down.
have created a very, very hostile work environment.
It's not. If I ask you a question
Mr.
as
Bradley, it most certainly is, so I suggest you calm yourself down. Do you have other items you would like to present?
yes,
What would they be?
I would like this board to ask its administration for the full detailed report of every item so that we, as 9 individual board members, can have access to the information, the same information that a forensic auditor would have access to, so that we can do some of that work, find and root out the corruption and waste found within this district. Because I think by doing the process and learning the process from someone that has a business background, would recognize that it's not only the cost of overtime, but the authorization of overtime. It's not only the cost of an iPad, it's whether or not they're authorized. And in my budget, every student would be given a tablet with an ID number. And we'd
Mr.
still be
Bradley,
in
it
a
is my understanding that Mr. Fike was the one who made the decisions to stop tagging assets as they came in.
it doesn't bother me. Doesn't matter to me. Don't make it hassle, make it right.
Making it hassle.
You would agree, any business person that has a accountant as their employee or subordinate should have access to all of the information
Mr.
found.
Bradley,
Don't cut me off.
Explain to me, how does that feel, Mr. Bradley?
I don't mind. I just asked you not to.
The information you asked for, a detailed line by line of all the expenditures, you were told that personal information, PHI, and related student information would need to be redacted, and that would take time.
For a board member or for an individual citizen?
For a board member as well.
Why?
Due to the integrity of which that information will be handled, we must protect the district from any possible exposure to release of information to the public that under a federal or state guideline should not be released.
Okay, now who has access to that information prior to giving it to a board member if you so authorize it? Who sees it in this district?
Your next point, Mr. Bradley.
No, I'm waiting for an answer. Who sees it?
There will be no answer. What is your next?
Oh, there's no answer. Okay. So what happens is, and this is where they smoke screen.
Please don't badger our employees.
It's a smoke screen. One more
Mr.
time.
Bradley,
Please
do
don't-
you have
please
items
do not
that you would
badger
like to
our
present,
employees.
or would you like to continue?
I'm asking a question.
A diatribe of inaccuracy.
It's not inaccuracy. It's perfectly legitimate for a board of directors to have access to every document that's found within inside the district. It's under Pennsylvania School Code, and there is nothing that cannot, there's no personal information that cannot be shared with a board member any way other than that can be shared with a school employee, a person that gets it in the, when the bill comes in, Rita, someone has to open the mail. Who opens the mail? Do they redact it before it gets opened? Who opens the mail, Rita? Is that person any less or more responsible than a board member? You have a job to
You're more
do. You're being blocked. You have a feeling.
Responsible.
You
I
have-
have many friends in this and other districts who work as teachers, who work as accountants, who work as other things, and they never say a darn word to anybody about personal information.